We'll get right into the show in just a minute, but first, most of the time, I don't recommend that anybody listen to any podcast except The Brad Johnson Show because, let's just be honest, most podcasts out there are hashtag loserly to the extreme. But I have recently found and discovered and come across and discovered some other podcasts that are not that loserly. They're actually pretty winnerly, and I want to introduce you to them in their own words right here.
Hello and welcome to Birth Your Vision podcast series. I'm your host, Hannah Kupali. I coach and I mentor aspiring female entrepreneurs who have dreams and aspirations, but struggle with lack of clarity and clear vision. I help them to gain and develop confidence to build their dream business. I am the founder of All Women's Network, a platform that empowers women with confidence building, personal development workshops, and networking connections, which supports and also enriches, inspires women professionally through our mentoring and entrepreneurial skills coaching program. We host monthly networking, virtual events, and annual Women in Business conferences. And the purpose of this podcast is going to be about business and lifestyle. The aim is to actually provide support for women in business as well as aspiring female entrepreneurs to get inspiration, advice, strategies, and tips in growing their business.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a while since we have done a burning question episode, and I feel so bad because there are literally people who have ignited because their burning question has not been answered, and therefore they just burn up and they are no longer with us, which is, sad. But there was nothing I could do about it because we had other content to get out there. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting to your burning questions. So let us do this thing right now. Hit it, James.
The Brad Johnson Show.
I'm turning losers like you into winners like me.
You're about to enter the winning zone.
Oh, I could not be more stoked, ladies and gentlemen, to be myself, which is me, Brad Johnson, here on the Brad Johnson Show, your host with the most, and my assistant to the host, James Kirkland. Welcome.
I'm the assistant host.
To the Brad Johnson Show. So burning questions, James, it's been a while. I don't like going this long between burning questions. It can be a health hazard for some people.
Definitely. Especially as it starts to get warmer and drier. It's really hazardous to have so many burning questions just, sitting in your bosom waiting to be answered.
I don't think that is where questions sit, but point taken. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have sent in questions. I have thought of answers. Actually, honestly, I didn't do much thinking on these answers. Pretty much none. Actually, no thinking really at all. But that's the awesomeness of being me, is that I don't even have to think about these type of questions to get you awesome answers. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing it. I'm doing this answering of these questions for my brand new mini elliptical. It's a bike desk. Is basically what it is, so I can exercise while I'm at my desk, because I don't know if you know this, James, but standing is the new cancer.
Yeah, people have thought for the longest time that standing desks were enough to keep you from dying, but it's actually proven that it's almost as bad as sitting. So there had to be another step away from instant death.
Literally a step, except it's a pedal, which is kind of like a step because it moves you in a direction, but this is stationary. So I'm pedaling away right now as we record this podcast. I tell you, I always feel amazing, but right now I feel more than amazing, which is kind of like my normal self. Totally. But yeah, I love this new bike desk. It just keeps the blood moving, and I think it's definitely it may have even made me handsomer. I'm not sure, but I think it has. I'm actually thinking, James, of upgrading to the Harley Davidson model on this bike desk.
That's a great idea. Yeah, go for the sporty version.
Oh, I think it would be amazing. I like the one that I have, but I think the Harley would be awesome. And the nice thing about it too is that you don't even have to pedal on that bike desk, which is really cool. I've been experimenting a little bit with kind of toning my arms with just pedaling with my arms while I'm working instead of my feet.
So. But what about when you need to type? Like you're using your hands for the pedals. Like how do you?
Obviously, I type with my feet when that happens. It's not a big deal. Anyway,
Okay.
so let's get into these burning questions, people. You've sent in your questions. I have answers, and I'm going to give them to you right now. If you want to have, if you're not on this episode, but you'd like to be with your question, it is an honor, and it's not one that I bestow lightly, but it's one that I bestow heavily upon people. And if that's you, if you want to do that, then all you got to do is send an email to. Tell them where to send it, there, James.
Of course, the email address is bradjohnsonshow at gmail.com. That's where you want to send them. That's where you're going to get your answers from. And that's how your life is going to be changed.
Yeah, totally. So people, I can't change your life if you don't get in touch with me. And the best way to do that is bradjohnsonshow at gmail.com. All right, James, hit me with this first question. I'm so ready to put out these fires.
Let's do it. All right. So our first one is on a topic we've discussed in the past about animals. So here we go. How do I market a business in the exotic animal hobby space?
Yeah. I like this question. That is so niche. And you know what I always say about niching, James.
Yeah, niching is the most dynamic way to use something that you're passionate about to take other people's money.
Well, it's just to create money, basically out of thin air. But yeah, so if you are in the exotic animal hobby space, I would want to know a few more details. Are we talking lions? I mean, what kind of exotic animals are we talking about here?
Right.
I think that's the first step.
And are they talking about exotic animal hobbies like stitching tigers or sewing exotic animals? Like, is that what they're talking about, or are they talking about live animals?
Yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity in this question, which people, if you're going to send in a question to the Brad Johnson Show, please be specific. I mean, I'm amazing and I can definitely read between the lines, but this question, it's on one line. So I don't know, like there's no lines to read between.
Exactly.
Because there's only one. Okay, so yeah, but I'll do my best, which is definitely a lot. But basically, what I would say, your marketing needs to be to your niche, okay? Because the business that you have is niche, therefore it makes sense to send the marketing of that niche to the niche.
So you
are trying to reach.
Are you saying that we should be marketing to the animals themselves? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, probably not. Most animals that I've run into cannot read, which is generally, although, if you're doing video marketing, then there might be something to say for that, for sure. Let's see.
And monkeys can type, so there's that.
Yes, but typically you don't market to someone who types back to you. That's not usually how marketing works. Believe me, I know how marketing works. So I would say the best way to do it is probably, I call it guerrilla marketing, but I think that could be a little confusing if you're doing something with like lions or something. I think the lions would probably eat the gorillas. So let's just call it a ground pound marketing. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Basically, I would just get out there with your exotic animal. That's like the best marketing you can do. I mean, it's like, can you imagine just walking down the street, James, right now? If we left the mansion right now and walked down the street with a Bengal tiger, I mean, how much attention would that get? We wouldn't have to market. That markets itself.
Exactly. You just literally set out a place for people to drop money as they go by. It's not that hard.
No, and another consideration is kind of joining in with a zoo. So you kind of do the I call it the Starbucks method. It was actually something I came up with, but then Starbucks stole it from me. But it's basically you figure out where the absolute perfect place is, and then you put your business there, and then other businesses are like, oh, that business knows a lot of stuff, and they put a business there. Therefore, I should put a business there because that smart business put a business there. Okay, that makes sense. So you look where other exotic animal hobby type people are, and then you go there and do that.
Gotcha. So close to zoos is probably a good idea. Pet stores, that type of a thing. Now,
exactly.
A quick question about the animal side of it. Let's say that you have an exotic animal, but it doesn't have a great personality. What do you do then? Is there a way you can make the animal more interesting?
Again, it depends on the animal. I mean, there's only so much personality you can force into like a piranha or something like that. I mean, they have their limits. If we're talking, like a chimp or something like that, you got probably some better options. I would say you can never go wrong with a Tony Robbins conference. Okay, even for animals.
Okay, excellent. We'll keep that in mind.
That guy just gets in your brain. Okay, he's kind of like me in that way. He tried to learn from me, I think is what we could say, but you can only go so far. Anyway, all right, so that's enough of that. People, let's get another question, and remember to be more specific, please. Thank you.
All right, next question. How do you determine content quality versus quantity?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
This really should be a question.
No,
obvious.
It should not be a question ever. Okay, people.
Yeah.
Obvious. So obvious that there's never an either or. There's always an and also. Okay, that's what I always say. There's never an either or. There's always an and also altogether. Okay, You don't want that dichotomy, which is a very fancy word for saying two things, and the etymology of that is very fascinating. We'll take time to get into it right now, but basically. I guess it's super interesting. So dichotomy basically means, so the die is like rolling a dice, okay, but only one. So if you have a dichotomy, then you roll one dice, but it gives you an answer. And the cotomy part is like a Latin word for I didn't like that result. So then you roll it again. So then you have two rolls, and you get to choose between the two. But that's not good because you don't want that one or the other choice.
And that's where we come up with the concept of content Yahtzee, where you roll the dice of content and as many times as you need to until something hits. So that's where your quantity is important, because you only get the quality through creating a massive quantity, because if one in every 20 of your posts really pops off and gets really popular, then you've got both the quantity and the quality, because you have one really good post out of however many.
Yeah, and that's kind of what most people have to do. I think, if you took the hashtag Brad Johnson video course, then you wouldn't have to worry about that, because boom, you could just knock it out every time and you get quality, and then you just have quality like over and over again, and you get quantity, but the quality is quantity and the quantity is quality all at the same time. So you get that all together and type of situation. All right, there we go, people. Don't box yourself in with an either or ever. Don't do it. You can either do that or you can succeed. Okay, that's what it boils down to. All right, next question.
All right, this one is for authors. How can fiction writers expand their audience and get more book sales?
Okay. I think, again, this person asking this question, very, very poorly asked question. I'm a little disappointed, but it was what I was expecting as well. But basically, you don't want to increase your sales of just the book, okay? You're setting your sights too low if that's what you're doing, okay? I don't care if it's a fiction book. You need to be following the example of amazing authors like me who have, taken a fiction book and basically used the same marketing that I would for one of my nonfiction books. And I create a course around it. I create, a speaking tour around it. I create a conference series around it. I create, video tutorials around a fiction book. And people don't even know what's happening, but it's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And another thing I would say is that personally, I would steer away from writing fiction. Oftentimes people talk about fiction and nonfiction. Why not just write truth books? Instead of arguing about whether or not it's fiction or fact or whatever, just write truth books so that people buy it and they know that all the content in it is 100% accurate and true.
Well, as a fiction author myself, successful fiction author myself, I can just say that fiction is a way to express the creativeness of you, where nonfiction, you can definitely be creative and stuff, but there are limitations. So
is that creativity fictional though, if it's in a fictional book?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it would be fictional because they just think that their book is okay, but it's not. Okay, I'm just being honest. Okay, that's what you're paying me for. but this is a free podcast. But so when I was writing my 3 novels, so if people who've listened to the show, NaNoWriMo this last year, totally baller move, just completely knocked out an entire novel. It was amazing. And then I was just like, this is so good, I got to keep going. So boom, another novel within the next month, and boom, another novel within the next month. Okay, so now I've got 3. That's a trilogy, people. That's what in the biz we call a trilogy. That means 3 books, all about the same thing, but slightly different, and telling a story throughout all of them. And if you want to read them, people, I definitely get in touch with me. James, you've checked out the books. It's life-changing for fiction.
Definitely. Yeah. And just look forward to the film adaptations of those. I think if we sell the 10 million, base 10 million copies per book, then we'll definitely be looking into the film adaptation of it. So keep your eye out for that.
Yeah, you were doing some outreach, I think, the other day to Michael Bay.
Yeah,
we're
absolutely
connected, I think, and
casual conversation with him or whatever.
It's giving me amazing stuff. So people, if you want to check those out, they are real. A lot of people think that I'm just, putting it out for the podcast, but they are 100% legitimately real books that are amazing. And they're actually, they're called the Desmond Dirk books, and I wrote them all, and they're amazing, and you need to check them out. So get in touch with me. It would change your life. They're the best fiction books ever written. But enough about that. It is time now, ladies and gentlemen, for a segment that it has been far too long since we have done a Wellness Well. So you are probably sick and dying, and I'm here to rescue you from that with my good pal, my partner in healthy crime, Sky. Welcome, Sky, back to the Wellness Well. Man, this is so good to be here. So good to be here.
Brad, it's always a pleasure to be with you. The Wellness Well is full. It's overflowing with goodness for anyone that is willing to step up to it. You don't have to dip in too far to get such amazing moisture and nourishment from it.
Yeah, definitely. And definitely, leave your plastic straw at home. You can just drink straight from your mouth from the well. It's that full. Sky, something I pride myself on the Brad Johnson Show is just completely being on top of things. We are releasing this episode, and it is just going to just hit perfectly timed, as always, for Cinco de Mayo, which I'm so stoked about this holiday that means so much to so many people. And you've got some healthy recipes for us.
I do indeed. There are some amazing ways you can celebrate this awesome holiday with some really unique recipes that are not only delicious, but also nutritious and gracious to the earth.
Wow. That sounds amazing. I do just love this holiday. I think it's there's so much to it that most people don't realize. And maybe you could just kind of give people a little bit of a history lesson on the holiday before we jump into these recipes, Guy.
Well, it definitely has its origins in Hispanic history, but we're talking more about the food aspect. So we've written our own history of Cinco de Mayo. Recently, we've created these new recipes that really celebrate what we think Cinco de Mayo should be about, which is food and people and culture and being healthy and loving the earth. Because really, that's what every holiday should do.
It's just so much rich history in what you just said there, and I think people really take that to heart. Think about it, and what Cinco de Mayo means to you and to the food that you eat. So let's jump right in here, Sky. I love these. I can't wait to try these out. I'm gonna have my personal chef get right on these.
Of course. So some of these might be a little repulsive to people, but oftentimes the more repulsive the item, the more healthy it is for you. So the first item we have are liver tacos. So these are not for your liver. These are made of liver. So nice. You're going to need to find some bison or possibly turkey liver. Those two are the best ingredients for this dish.
Nice. Ha! That will take your tacos to a whole nother level. You have no idea. Okay, Sky, the guacamole thing, that blew my mind. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about guacamole the way that you talked about guacamole.
Yeah, so one of my favorite ways of celebrating Cinco de Mayo is remembering animals and how helpful they can be to us and how helpful we can be to them. And that's why we create our horseradish guacamole. A lot of times guacamole is kind of mushy and flavorless. So the horseradish guacamole is much more flavorful. It's much more powerful. And it's really simple to make. You just take horseradish and add some green food coloring, and it's just so good for you.
Wow. Nice. Love it. Okay, so the next one, chips. Like, okay, so most people don't think of chips as being like super great for you, but you have a little twist on these that just makes my healthy heart sing.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways you could approach making a unique take on chips. But the best one is going to be using charcoal powder. Okay, charcoal is a fantastic thing for your skin. So I guess that doesn't really help you eat it. But the fact is, you can make charcoal chips that are very dark. You can use them to draw with if you want, but they're also edible as well.
Nice. And most of that, it's just pretty much the same chip recipe, but then you just cook them to the point where like you get that good healthy activated charcoal.
Exactly. And if you're not into making the powder itself and purifying it and all that, you could just burn a log and scrape off some of the wood from it, and it has the same effect.
Love it. Sky, this is amazing. Yeah, one more. Let's just hit one more.
All right, so the bonus one is going to be grasshoppers. Once again, another one that might be a little repulsive to some people, but let me tell you, if you can catch one of these guys, you probably won't regret eating it because it's just so healthy, especially eating them live. You don't want to cook them because that really just it kills them, and it removes a lot of the nutrients. So you'll just want to eat them live, just pop them right in, just pretend like it's a stick of gum and just swallow it straight down without chewing it.
Oh man. And that was like, I was trying to remember the Cinco de Mayo connection with the grasshoppers. I think that was just, they're things that are in Mexico, basically.
Yeah. I think some varieties of grasshopper do live in Mexico, so that's nice. The real connection there.
Perfect. Man, talk about cultural relevance. I love it. Sky, thank you so much. I love getting these healthy recipes and stuff, and I think this is going to just make Cinco de Mayo so much more meaningful for so many people this year.
Wonderful. That's what we're all about here.
All right. Man, felt good to be down at the Wellness Well. I feel my skin moisturized just by being there in my mental state at the Wellness Well. That was amazing.
Yeah, as always. I mean, it's just so good to know that there are different ways of celebrating different holidays, and whether that's with grasshoppers or ants or whatever you want to choose, it's a great way to do it.
Well, I think ants would be a little culturally insensitive, James, to eat on Cinco de Mayo, but I'll let that slide. Just you being you. All right. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for being here on this episode where we talked about your burning questions, took a little trip to the Wellness Well, and now I'm saying goodbye. But before I say goodbye, I want James to tell you how to connect with us on social media.
Social media is, in fact, the best way to get in touch with us. You're going to look for at Brad Johnson Show on most platforms, including Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're also on Facebook, believe it or not. And that's a great way to get in touch with us. We also have our email address, bradjohnsonshow@gmail.com. Check out the course. It'll be in the show notes below, and you won't regret it a bit at all. Guaranteed.
Ever. No, and that is a Brad Johnson guarantee.
And that is
right
a James
there.
Kirkland
And it
guarantee.
doesn't get any better than there. Well, that doesn't really. Anyway, all right. Thanks, guys, so much for listening. Remember to just tell somebody about the show. We are nearing the end of season 3, which is, a big milestone. Almost 150 episodes of awesomeness on the Brad Johnson Show, and we want more people to hear it. Do you want more people to hear it? I know you do. So all you have to do is tell them about the Brad Johnson Show. Better yet, just go subscribe them. They will thank you for it later. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time. chat.
You've just listened to an episode of awesomeness. Now, go out and spread the awesomeness and help others fix the mess that is their life and help them stop being a loser and start winning in business, health, and their personal life by getting them to listen to The Brad Johnson Show. Book your face, tweet your tweets, and Insta your grams at Brad Johnson Show. The Brad Johnson Show. Winners only.
When I was in school, I absolutely hated writing. It wasn't until I was a bit older that I came to understand the power of words. If you're a business owner, you understand that power too. A business blog, when done right, can drive sales, increase revenue, and get you more customers. But as a business owner, you probably don't have the time to do all that writing. Plus, if you're not a copywriter by trade, you might feel like you're just kind of throwing words out there and they're not actually accomplishing anything. The good news is, there's a simple solution. Check it out. I call it the ultimate blog post checklist for businesses with online stores. This checklist will allow you to write better, more effective articles that convert readers into buyers. It's full of easy-to-follow examples to get your creativity flowing based on experience of nearly 1 million words written, and best of all, it's effective on any type of article in any industry or niche. I've successfully used this exact checklist on topics from pool table reviews to investment advice. Tired of spending tons of time writing stuff that doesn't convert? This checklist will change that by giving you highly effective blog posts and articles that transform readers into paying customers. Go to invicta.enterprises/free checklist and start saving time and transforming your writing now. That's invicta.enterprises/free checklist.